Hello everybody, Mr. Storm here, and welcome back to Final Fantasy XIV Online Endwalker. In the last episode, we got the new expansion started. We got a little bit of a recap. I headed over to Limsa, hopped on a boat, went through a long cutscene as we sailed over from Limsa to Sharlayan. Had a little bit of an interaction with Hydaelyn. Interesting. Arrived in the city, went through immigration processing, and then took a little bit of a tour of the city with Graha and Kryl following us around. And picked up all the Aetherites, had some side conversations, and yeah. So far, we're pretty much just getting started. Now, it's been a few days since I last recorded the previous episode, so it's not quite as congested as it was day one. It still can get congested. But for now, we should be alright. So, what we're going to be doing now is just heading over to the destination that Kryl wants to go to. And, I guess continue to get to know the new town. I gotta say, I absolutely love the Sharlayan day and night music themes. They're great. Alright, let's head in here and see what we're going to discuss. Kryl? And here we are, the last stand. I may have mentioned this before, but although our research into nutrition and food preparation is quite extensive, the average Sharlayan tends to regard seasoning and flavor with a certain indifference. Yes, we're aware of that, the Archon loaf. How can I put this? The food is, it's bland. As encapsulated by our infamous Archon loaf, the prevailing sentiment towards cuisine is dietary value first and taste a distant second. There was one pupil at the studium, however, who could stomach the school's insipid meals no longer, so he quit his lessons and poured all his savings into building a proper eatery. And so the last stand came to be. It is, as the name implies, the sole dedicated outpost of fine dining in Sharlayan, the one and only bastion of the culinary arts, and an isle of otherwise mediocre fare. I seem to recall their burger being hailed as one of the more impressive items on the menu. Not that I ever had the pleasure of eating one myself. They have burgers? We must have one of said burgers. Because you were a typical Sharlayan when it came to cheap and convenient, Raha. But surely Tataru has since taught you how to appreciate a well-prepared dish? We should all stop in when time permits and sample the cafe's delights. Absolutely. Shall we press on? The stairs to the side of the cafe there will take us up to the Aetherite Plaza. Oh, so we're going to continue. I went on my own tour. I guess Kryl's going to be leading us on a more guided tour of the town. Okay, so, yeah, Aetherite Plaza. We've already attuned, so that shouldn't be an issue. I have attuned, right? Yes. Just double checking. Because that would be rather inconvenient if I didn't. Alright, what do we got here? An unusual shape, isn't it? I assure you, however, that it's a perfectly functioning Aetherite. Remember to attune yourself before we move on. Now, being the diligent tour guide that I am, I should make mention of the Confluence, a research facility located on this very plaza. Its much vaunted discoveries are the reason Sharlayan stands at the forefront of teleportation technology. In deciphering the underlying principles of Allegan Aetherites, it allowed us to understand and reconstruct what was essentially a lost art. And off we go to our next destination. Our path leads northeast to the Agora, Sharlayan's largest marketplace. And it would make sense that they're going to use Greek terminology, because it's, as I mentioned before, very classical architecture. Oh, there's something here. Discuss the book stalls. Do you mind if I browse the shelves for a moment? There might be some hidden gems I've yet to read. Only a moment? How optimistic. Feel free to browse all you like, but we won't wait around for you. Perhaps I'll return here later then. Yes, Graha. Stay on point. Alright. What does Kryle have to say? These little open-air bookstalls are so uniquely Charlian. I'd always thought them a common sight until I visited other nations. Yeah, these open-air bookstalls. Interesting. Seems like a bad idea when it rains. I just noticed there's someone hanging out on the awning there. All right. Actually, I don't know. He doesn't have anything to say about this. All right. So where are we here? Welcome to the Agora, where you can find wares made in Charlian, as well as a wide selection of imported goods. They also used to sell questionable prototypes from the various research institutes, but I think that practice has thankfully died out, for the most part. Otherwise, I can think of no better place to stock up for your next big adventure. Am I overselling it? Well, on a more serious note, the next stop on our tour is one which has particular relevance to our ultimate purpose here. We must head back to the Aetheryte Plaza, follow the path north, and climb the stairs up to that imposing building at the very top. Okay, so this is the shop, marketplace. Market board is down there, I think. Everybody still following? Okay, good. Here's a side conversation spot. Discuss the water features. Water features? Ah. And, actually, hold on. Water features. These little decorative features are typical of Charlian architecture. Aside from the research wing, our headquarters on the Isle of Val were rather simple and rustic by comparison. And Kryle? This is the Nymphaeum, an area dedicated to the blessings of water. For Charlians, water represents more than a life-sustaining liquid. It is a reminder of the great flood which precipitated the birth of our nation, as well as a symbol of the knowledge which flows from Thaliak's divine Ewer. It is the reason you see an abundance of fountains throughout the city, and a propensity for utilizing water as a decorative feature in our architecture. Alright, interesting. Alright, and so here we are. This grand structure before you is the Rostra. The name refers to the original public platform erected here, upon which a forum of elected representatives would deliver orations and debate policy. Although the stage has since evolved into council chambers, the nature of the forum and the duties of its members remain largely unchanged. Am I boring you, Raha? You seem awfully distracted. My apologies. From here, one can see the entire city spread out below. The vista put me in mind of my arrival in the first. Those who had gathered at the Crystal Tower asked me how they might go about building a new home. Naturally, my answers were all inspired by my knowledge of the finest settlement I could think of, the great city of Charlian. Bit by bit, those few buildings grew into a town, a community, the Crystarium. I could almost see its echo. I see. Feel free to come up here whenever you wish. I don't think the counselors would object to you simply enjoying the view. Such memories should be treasured. For now, however, the tour must go on. Our spectacle of sightseeing concludes with the fittingly named Journey's End. Walk down the stairs to the east and continue straight ahead. There's a whole city laid out below. Alright, here we are. We arrived at Journey's End. History tells us that this was where those who put ashore with Archon Njunkrep built their first homes. In the present day, it serves as the residential district for the most important officials and the oldest Charlian families. You'll see that one mansion is clearly larger than its neighbors. The estate belongs to our friends from House Leveilleur. All things considered, we should probably keep our distance for the time being. And with that, we bring our little Charlian tour to a close. I hope it has proven to be an entertaining and enlightening experience. Now, shall we head directly to the Baldassian Annex? You remember the way, don't you, Graha? Let me think. We head down towards the harbor, across the bridge to our right, then follow the path below the Aetheryte Plaza? Correct. After you, Ayame. Oh, they're still following. Okay. And unfortunately, they lose their way when we teleport. So we'll have to hoof it. And there appears to be our destination. Alright. One more time, Kryl. As the joyous look on Raha's face has undoubtedly informed you, this is the Baldassian Annex. If you continue up the hill, you'll arrive on the doorstep of Phenomenon. But I think we've explored enough for one day. We can take you there another time. Inside with you, then. I'm back, and I brought Ayame and Raha with me. Ah, you were right about the ship, then. Hello, Graha. It's nice to see you again. And it's a pleasure to finally meet you, Ayame. I've heard many tale of your exploits. Okay. Well, you have me at a disadvantage. Ojika? Ojika Tsunjika. Soon. It has been an age. Allow me to introduce Ojika Tsunjika, administration officer for the students of Baldassian. He oversees the day-to-day business of the Annex. The champion of Eorzea has featured prominently in Kryl and Graha's reports to me. This is akin to seeing a fable hero come to life. It is an honor to make your acquaintance. Right, this place is like a second home for the students. The Isle of Val served as our main headquarters, of course. We often had occasion to visit Charlian. Whether to make use of the city's research facilities, attend conferences, or procure supplies from distant shores. And the annex here was built to provide lodgings for our members while we engaged in such activities. Ever since our former headquarters, along with the Isle itself, vanished, the annex has served as our base of operations. And yet it feels so empty, with so many lost to us. Our organization is a shell of its former self. The day will come when we will see the students rise again. But first, we must ensure that the Telophoroi fail. Indeed. Through that door on the left there is the main hall where we can discuss our options moving forward. Once everyone arrives, that is, you probably have time to rest before our discussions begin in earnest. I've had private quarters prepared for you in the Andron, so please feel free to make yourself at home. Ah, the nap rooms. Perfect for an afternoon doze. Oh? Oh, I didn't mean to give the wrong impression. The chambers are quite well appointed, far more so than some cheap roadside inn, you may be assured. It was simply that we were often so busy with research or exhausted from journeys abroad that we would slip into the Andron just to steal a few winks. And thus they became known amongst the students as nap rooms, even if many such naps might last well into the following morning. Say the word and I'll be happy to show you to your chamber. Hopefully the others won't be too long in coming. I'll wait for you all in the main hall. Alright, so this is the inn, as well as our primary base of operations for the time being. Alright. Speak with Kryl in the main hall. But first we're going to talk to Graha. Do you have papers pasted on the walls of your room? It was not unusual for occupants to pin up notes or documents and such, and then forget to take them when they went on their merry way. Sometimes it was quite deliberate, though. You might see complaints addressed to other members, or a thank you card, or for the engrossing literature someone left behind. Beloved traditions that I should know better than to dwell upon. If we are to create a future for the students of Baldassian and so many others, we must look to the days ahead. Alright. Let's check out the main hall. Oh, there's a big old map of the world, as we know it. And lots of stuff on the walls here. Alright. Trial. Feeling refreshed and alert. Our colleagues should be wandering in soon, so I suggest we stay here and wait for them to join us. Oh, seems the whole crew's here. Oh, almost.
Pray forgive me. I was delayed.
It's fine, Eorzea. We're all here now.
Let's get down to business then, shall we? Come what may, we must prevent the Telophoroi's plans from coming to fruition. At present, I see two paths for gathering the information which may aid us in achieving that goal.
Ah, here's going to be the main story split, as anticipated.
The first involves an investigation into the change which has come over Sharlayan, not to mention the recent inscrutable behavior of the Forum. As most of you know, the 99 members of the Forum are elected from the general populace. This alone guarantees a plethora of opinion with regards to foreign policy. The bibliotheques, for example, are a group of conservatives which would have Sharlayan focus on recording history, while remaining entirely uninvolved in the making of it. And at the other extreme, we have advocates for proactive diplomacy and direct intervention. My grandfather Galef was one such member, as was Archon Louisois. Yet despite our diverse factions and philosophies, the recent vote to deny Eorzea's request for assistance was unanimous. Even more concerning was the fact that many cited other, more pressing duties as justification for their recalcitrance.
Fortuno's refusal in Gridania had those same undertones. 'Twas as if, having stared unblinking into the face of impending doom, he had simply turned away to pursue something more important. But what could that possibly be?
mystery indeed, and one which I ask for your help to solve. Our future may depend on it. As for our second potential path, it concerns a request made directly to the students of Baldassian. Our organization was founded primarily to study strange and unexplained phenomena the world over. Mysterious relics and ruins, arcane disturbances, and so forth. Compared to our more isolationist Sharlian colleagues, we have strong connections overseas, namely with scholars and academics who share our passion for the unknown. The request in question comes from one such acquaintance, Nadana, an alchemist residing in distant Thavnair. Her missive describes the sudden appearance of a tower, and the subsequent summoning of what I can only assume is a lunar primal. In response to this threat, the satrap of Radzat-Han, the individual who governs the city-state, has instructed the alchemists to find a means to deal with the spire.
The artisans of that land are heirs to an ancient tradition, one rather unlike that of their Uldan counterparts. It is possible, nay, probable, that they have gleaned truths unattainable by Eorzea or her Far Eastern allies.
They do, in fact, appear to have a strategy in mind, though it will require further research. To that end, they have requested an introduction to a capable warrior shielded by the blessing of light.
Assuming we divide our forces to pursue both of Kral's lines of inquiry, then having you join the group heading to Thavnair would seem the obvious choice. But the investigation in Sharlian is of vital importance as well. Equal, I think, to the Thavnairian one, given that the fate of the world may hinge on the results of both.
Yes, it is quite the quandary. Though it is a great imposition and an altogether too common one, our efforts would be more likely to succeed were you to lead the charge on both fronts. You are indeed our champion. As to which task to tackle first, we will defer to your decision. Let us next decide how everyone else might best be assigned. As for myself, I shall continue what I've begun in Sharlian. I should also like to steal the services of an Archon or two.
And thereby gain access to a greater range of reading material. I will help with that.
Allow me to offer my assistance. I have some small amount of experience in the field of research.
Alice and I would also like to help, if you would have us.
Anything to understand even a fraction of what our father and the Forum might be thinking.
Of course, the more the merrier.
Right. The rest of us will make the journey to Thavnair. Thoughts? Objections?
I passed through Thavnair on my way to infiltrate the Empire, and though I'm not qualified to give a guided tour, I did gain a sense of where things lie.
I'll be happy to have you along then. So for this group, it will be you, me, and Urianger.
Give me a moment afterwards, and I'll supply you with all the details of Nadana's request. Consider this hall our rendezvous point once our respective tasks are complete. May our investigations prove fruitful.
All right. So we have our options. All right. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to grab both and then decide which one we're going to do. But let's show chat with everyone else first. Astinian. Let's back to Thavnair. I know earlier I would have considered more suitable attire. Yeah, problem because it's rather warm there, considering where it's located. Eorzea? Though I've read much on the subject of Razad Han, this visit shall be my first. It will be interesting to see how the Hanish mean to contend with the tower, different as their magical and technological disciplines are. Interesting. Alright, Thancred. Amra Lassie. A blend of yogurt and spices. This refreshing drink is infused with the mellow sweetness of the Amra fruit. Interesting. Alright, I have Kryl's instructions in hand. If you're ready to set out, then so are we. Having been to Thavnair before, I can travel by Aetheryte, but what are the rest of you? Another sea voyage would waste time we do not have. Yeah, we'd have to go basically all the way around Eorzea to get there, because there's no canal that runs through Alamigo. Maybe a project they might consider. Kryl was of the same mind, and has already secured the aid of the good folk of the Confluence. We'll take ourselves there. The Confluence, thou sayest? I'm afraid so, my friend. What's up? Thou wilt recall the hunt for Iceheart, unto whose sanctuary we delivered thee owing to the knowledge of our comrade Moonbreda. Yes, been a while. Moonbreda was an authority on aetherology, a field of study she did embark upon in pursuit of her parents' example. Both are authorities in their own right, and both are researchers at the Confluence. Oh. Yeah. Haven't you gone to see them yet? I attempted to do so earlier, but to my shame, my courage failed me at the last. As it hath the many times I thought to reach out to them after sending that fateful letter. Neither time nor introspection have revealed unto me the words I should speak, and thus have I kept my silence. Whether you come with us or no is your choice and yours alone. If it is too difficult, we'll manage. Now, thou art kind to say so, but I have no intention of forsaking our cause. I shall go to the Confluence, and I shall face that which hath long been overdue. It's settled then. Let us be off. When we arrive, we should look for a researcher named Kite. Kite? Something along those lines. Well, we're not actually heading out just yet. We have the other group to talk to. How'd I say? I still don't understand how the vote could be unanimous. What could possibly convince them all to turn their backs on Eorzea? Yeah, even a majority vote would be, you know, understandable, but a unanimous one? Strange. The forum is intended on concealing its intentions, and a cursory investigation will avail us little, I suspect. We'll need to dig deeper, and with the greatest of care. Stella? The process by which the four members are elected is fair and equitable, whether neither wealth nor social standing offers any advantage to a prospective candidate. But fairly elected or not, Master Matoya still found them all to be insufferable. Yes, so she said. Graha? Our tour of the city was a pleasant distraction. I feel more than ready now to tackle the challenges of the day. So be it. Alright, Kryl. What do you got for me? Hidden the books. Kryl's intent on uncovering the reason behind the forum's inexplicable behavior. An unsettling change has come over Sharlayan, but together we will divine the underlying cause for the forum's callousness. As I mentioned before, however, questioning the counselors directly is a fruitless endeavor. They seem to have already come to a consensus as to what and how little they are willing to divulge. Which is why I began scouring Sharlayan's archive of historical records for any hint of a connection to the final days. Suffice it to say that progress has been slow. There are only so many dusty pages one can skim in a day. But now that I have this band of willing reinforcements, the search should proceed all the swifter. Yes. Let us reconvene outside Numenon, shall we? Exit the annex to the right, and you'll find the archives on the western edge of the woods. Alright, so now we have our options. Continue the investigation here in Sharlayan, or head out to Thavnair to start work there. Let me think for a minute. Alright, well I think what we're going to do is we're going to do the Sharlayan investigation first. We're going to stay in town, and we're going to work on that. Alright, we got a couple of gear coffers here. We have... what? A 515 weapon and a 515 chest piece. The 515 chest piece is not going to do me any good in this set, but the weapon... would be useful. What I'll probably do is just go ahead and store those and use them later. Alright, so that got me a sword and a shield. Flowery. And that's some sword. It kind of goes with the current glamour, so I guess we'll keep it for now. Won't glamour it off. Alright, where am I going? Oh, there's side quests now available in town. I think for the moment... I think this is where we're going. Hitting the books, right? I think for the moment, I'm just going to keep the on-screen activity to the main scenario quest only. And I'll do side quest stuff off-screen. Just to kind of keep the total episode length at some sort of reasonable level. Because, you know, if I could probably spend multiple episodes just doing side quests. So, wait, where am I going? Where am I going? Oh, we are going up here. Okay. Somebody is performing. My directions were easy enough to follow, I hope. In any case, you stand now before the doors of Numenon, Sharlayan's grandest collection of books and tomes. Hold on a second. I can't turn it off now that I've started the conversation. This building is actually only an entrance, and one of many at that, for the archives of Numenon extend deep beneath the surface like the roots of a tree. The vast halls of the great Google Library pale in comparison to Numenon's endless maze of subterranean chambers. Any citizen of Sharlayan is free to enter and peruse its shelves. Well, most of its shelves. Only Archons are afforded access to certain restricted vaults. I dispatched Stella and Graha to investigate those. Meanwhile, Alice and Alphina will help me continue my search through the stacks open to the general public. Their status represents more of a problem. As non-citizen, you are only permitted to browse the first floor here at the entrance. Even so, there should be a number of books which touch upon Sharlayan history or foreign policy. Your task will be to find and study relevant publications. I promise you, a working knowledge of these subjects will make it far easier to spot the sort of clues we're looking for. Let's be about it, shall we? I've told the others to meet us at the stone benches over there once we've found some promising tomes. Happy reading. Alright. Now, I can finally do what I need to do here. I mean, I don't mind the performances sometimes, but, you know, I'm trying to, like, read on screen here. It's very annoying. Alright, so what are we looking for? Brightly colored book. The title on the spine reads The Story of Sharlayan. Read the book. Sure. Long, long ago, on an island in the Northern Sea, there lived a Rogadan man by the name of Nunkrepf. Nunkrepf was a student of astrology, and he divined that a flood of terrifying proportions would soon sweep over the lands of Eorzea. So it was that he built a gigantic ship, assembled a crew, and set sail for that imperiled realm. The flood arrived as foretold, and to their horror, the strangely churning waters drove the people toward the ocean. It was there, however, that Nunkrep's crew hauled them aboard his ark, but the danger had not passed. A towering wave approached, threatening to smash the vessel to pieces. With only moments to spare, Nunkrep wove a mighty spell of teleportation and shifted the entire ship to safety atop Abalathia's spine. Yes, I believe we've actually seen it. Refugees from the surrounding regions huddled there alongside them, but it was not long before disputes over the dwindling supply of food led to violence and bloodshed. Saddened by the sight, Nunkrep gathered to him his crew and his grateful passengers and abandoned the ark to those reddened peaks. They journeyed to the coast, where they built a new ship, intent upon returning to the northern seas. They landed on the beach of an island and settled upon that very spot. The settlement prospered and grew, and in time it became the city of Sharlayan we live in to this day. Okay, so that's a little history of how the city was founded. Alright, a red-covered book. The spine reads, Roads of Old, the Colony. Many years ago, on the banks of the Thaliak in the Dravanian hinterlands, a Sharlayan colony once thrived. The settlement was originally established as a mere outpost to study the ethereal sea in the year 1311 of the 6th Astral Era. Scholars dispatched to Eorzea found the facilities wanting, and their demands encouraged a gradual expansion in structures and services. As rumors spread of a growing community of academics, the area was further inundated with Eorzean students hoping to share in the renowned wisdom of the Sharlayans. 50 years later, the Forum passed a motion to recognize what had become a flourishing town as an official Sharlayan colony. Eorzean residents took to calling the colony itself Sharlayan, which led to no small amount of confusion when discussions turned to the subject of the motherland. In response, some Sharlayan inhabitants, if pressed for a name, would simply refer to it as Emporium. Following the Great Exodus, however, goblins and treasure hunters claimed for themselves a corner of the abandoned colony and gave it yet another name, Idleshire. Yeah, we've been there. The following chapters go on to introduce the most prominent features of Idleshire. This book does not appear to contain additional information on the Forum or cover the history of the Sharlayan motherland in greater detail. Oh, but interesting nonetheless. Yeah, that's a lot of books. Well, the Cabin of the Curiosity was a big library. This one's got that one beat by miles. Alright, Leatherbound tome. The title on the spine reads, The Voice of a Growing City. Yes. In the years which followed the founding of Sharlayan, civic policy and other matters of import were decided by the Ecclesia, a public forum at which every citizen was eligible to speak. Ecclesia probably is a closer pronunciation. As the city's population grew, however, this format became increasingly impractical. The larger number of participants gave rise to ever longer debates, resulting in significant delays of vital resolutions. Various measures were introduced in an attempt to curtail protracted discussions, but in the year 201 of the 6th Astral Era, 200 years after the flood, it was ultimately decreed that Sharlayan would transition to a new form of governance. The nation would now be led by a body of 99 members, citizens chosen from amongst their peers by means of a nationwide vote. Thus was the Forum as we know it today conceived and created. Alright, yeah, so representative democracy. So in essence, it's now a republic instead of a direct democracy. Alright, blue covered book. Introduction to the Heavens. Sure, we'll read it. Why not? Have you ever gazed at the skies above and contemplated the mysteries contained therein? Why ever? I speak not of shifting cloud patterns, but the vastness beyond, of the sun and the twinkling tapestry of the night. Some think the dome above us to be a finite space, yet amongst the leading thinkers of our age, one scholar's depiction of a boundless sea of stars has firmly taken root. Alas, this heavenly sea remains an unreachable, unknowable destination. For the moment. There are few indeed who can explain in satisfactory detail why our own star is believed to revolve around the sun. It was the technologists of Alag who came closest to understanding the laws which govern that starry abyss. It was they who launched Dalamud and sought to expand beyond our earthbound existence. Having read of their ancient ambitions, I wonder, has your interest in this field of study waxed or waned? What if I were to tell you that the eternal constellations were arranged differently in the distant past, that their positions continue to shift almost imperceptibly but measurably as we journey into the future? Would it shock you to learn that the stars drift further and further apart and may indeed do so forever? Are you eager to learn more? This book is on the wrong subject, but a very interesting one nonetheless. Search for works which contain details on the forum or mentions of the history of Charlian. But I was enjoying that book. Alright, Wellworn Manual. For the title and spine reads Forever 20 Summers. Read the book? Sure. My beloved seekers of knowledge, have you ever put learning before your health and neglected to feed and rest your body as you should? I too once engaged in such foolish practices, but one night, engrossed in philosophical study, I had an epiphany. For all the world's mysteries that drive us to reckless abandon, we have so very few years of life in which to achieve our goals. Thus, do I share with you this mantra, I am forever 20 summers young. Oh, Lord. The number itself is unimportant. You could be 19 or 23 or 40, whatever age you are when you discover this manual, let that be the age you aspire to remain. Through mindful, healthy living, will you extend the time available to spend upon your chosen research. Another day, another moon, another summer to grasp the greater truths you pursue. In the pages that follow, we will explore the secrets of maintaining one's physical condition from a biological, aetherological, and arcane viewpoint. Oh boy. This book is on the wrong subject. Search for works which contain details of the forum and the history of Charlian. Alright, Time-Worn Tome. The faded title in the spine reads Stewards of Wisdom. This one might be promising. Read the book. During the chaos of the Sixth Umbral Calamity, Archon Nunkrip, founder of Charlian, bore witness to the madness and savagery of men brought to the brink of despair. Upon raising a settlement on an island in the northern Empty, he instructed his people thus: renounce the ways of war and pursue enlightenment through knowledge and reason. The Charlians took to heart the words of their savior and thenceforth served as stewards of wisdom. Upon a foundation of accumulated learning, they built a homeland unlike any other, a nation born from the strength of minds rather than the strength of arms. With knowledge of economics came shrewd trading, with knowledge of agriculture came bountiful crops. Engineering brought wells and sewers, ending squabbles over water. Wealth of expertise could be bartered for wealth in coin. And the more their wisdom spread throughout the world, the more mankind as a whole would thrive. And so it was that no matter the trials and tribulations of the age, the citizens of Charlian would live by their founder's teachings. For the sake of a better tomorrow, for the sake of a brighter star, they would eschew the tools of war, and with knowledge deliver the world. Alright, we've gained a fundamental understanding of Charlian history and the foundation of the forum. Head outside to the rendezvous point and await your companions. Alright, so we have a little spot here to wait for everybody. It's, how do they say, and graha. Okay. Sorry, were you waiting long? I wanted to make sure I'd borrowed at least a few promising volumes. Alphino and Kryl should also be along shortly. I was delayed in similar fashion. As far as I could see, no titles in the Archon stacks mentioned the final day specifically, so we have no choice but to start with the tangentially relevant tomes, if they are even that. At present, the plan is to skim through as quickly as we dare and share our discoveries as we make them. It would have been nice to invite everyone to the estate, plenty of comfortable places to read and a ready supply of hot tea. Oh, I was always quite fond of reading outside. But it's not about the little pleasures, is it? You miss your home. It's been difficult. After our arrival, we managed to speak with one of the family servants and ask how things were. It seems our dear father has instructed the staff that even if Alphino and I were to return to Charlian, we were not to be allowed across the threshold. A harsh measure indeed. I hope that our efforts to understand his position and that of the Forum will perhaps lead to a reconciliation. We'll mend this rift one day, I'm certain of it. And what of you, Graha? Have you been to visit your family, or do they not live here in the city? Ah, well, my situation is also somewhat complicated. I was raised in Charlian, yes, but I was born rather further away. In the southern reaches of Ilsebard, in fact. For generations, my people have dwelt in Corvos, the coastal region opposite the island of Thavner. The Alligans founded a city in that fertile land, and by ship brought in the subjugated tribes of Mikote to serve as laborers. Of course, the massive earthquakes of the Fourth Umbral Calamity brought an end to the Empire's reign, and when the Fifth Calamity froze the seas solid, many of the tribes still living in Corvos braved the journey back to Eorzea. My ancestors, however, chose to remain, that they might prevent the remnants of Allagan technology from being misused. Isn't Corvos under Garlean rule? For the past 50 years, yes. Some semblance of local culture remains, as the case for most imperial provinces, but Garlemald remained the region locus Amernus? Amernus. Something like that. When I was a boy, a nearby town came under the jurisdiction of an illustrious imperial family, the nobles of House Darnus. Darnus. House Darnus demonstrated a singular interest in Allagan civilization, and so my tribe was forced to consider a plan of action. For some time already, voices have been raised in favor of abandoning our ancient customs. After all, the Allagan eye no longer passed to our eldest children as reliably as it once had. Fear of discovery eventually tipped the scales, and the decision was made to bury our ties to the knowledge and traditions of Allag. As the last child born with the Allagan eye, I was given over to the custody of friends of the students of Baldassian, who had me registered as a Charlian citizen. I'd never even considered. Forgive me, it was an unkind question. Even Thangred was taken in by Archon Louisois, was he not? Stories of adopted waifs and rescued orphans are more common among Charlians than you might think. Yet in regards to our origins, we are all provided with an equal opportunity to learn, and with sufficient perspicacity, we outsiders can even earn the vaunted title of Archon. This is exactly why I have such a love for this country, and why I wish it to remain a nation of which its citizens can be proud. Here. Another good reason to get to the bottom of the Forum's stubbornness, aside from the trifling matter of our impending doom. Excuse us while we try to make some headway into these books, Ayame. More company should be arriving any moment now. Alright, so a little background on Graha. Alright. Who's next? Kryl and Alphino. We've returned with our selections. Although I must say the pickings were quite slim indeed. Mistress Krile has already flicked through every history book devoted to disasters, and more than a few which barely made mention of them. As such, we will be looking into research papers on the Umbral calamities, as well as articles written by prominent forum members. Perhaps their knowledge of the final days comes from an unexpected source. Speaking of which, might I ask you a few questions related to the final days? Oh? I'm the only one here who didn't witness the events of Amrat firsthand, and fear I may be overlooking critical details. At least the final days as remembered and represented by Emmett Selk. So, a little filtered from the actual events. My thanks. Now, where to begin? First things first, what kind of phenomenon did the ancients encounter as the final days drew nigh? Let's see. A complete destabilization of creation magics? Yes. Primals of unrivaled power were summoned from the ether. Kind of. The worst kind of phenomenon you can imagine. That's not really helpful. A complete destabilization of creation magics we'll go with. Yes, the unfolding catastrophe wrought havoc on all manner of life. The chaos extended to the ancients themselves, causing their powers of creation to spiral out of control. Fear and despair manifested in terrible, tangible fashion. Meteors raining from the sky, fire erupting from the ground, indescribable abominations prowling the streets. More or less aligns with my understanding. If only the arts of creation had survived until the present day, we might have had something substantial to analyze. To the best of our knowledge, however, those techniques were not preserved or passed on. Stella surmises that the closest known magic is that of the summoning rituals promulgated by the Ascians. Was there aught else of note which heralded the approach of the final days? No, the entire star was not, in fact, engulfed by disaster all at once. It was a gradual, progressive thing. Alphino, you can answer this one. You will anyway. They say it began with a keening sound from the land itself. Indeed. Ah, yes, the Amratine spoke of it, didn't they? We never did hear this sound ourselves, of course, thrust as we were into the midst of the madness. But it seems that each and every one of the catastrophes was preceded by this ominous noise. Eventually, it resounded all across the star, and not even Amrat was spared. The ground was crying out, you say? To be considered the harbinger of doom, it must have been quite distinctive, and probably quite loud. I'll have to speak with one of Numenon's mammoths, and ask after any books would make mention of such a sound. Last but not least, would you describe how the ancients sought to quell this unprecedented calamity? What definitive action did they take? No. No. They summoned Zodiark. Yes, with Elidibus serving as his heart, so many gave themselves in sacrifice to bring him into being. We do not know exactly how Zodiark brought salvation to the star, only that by his godlike will were the laws of nature set aright. Then once the balance was redressed, the ancients offered up a further sacrifice to heal the ravages of the final days. Lives sprouted anew, and it was these fledgling souls they intended to render unto Zodiark a trade. It would have allowed them to resurrect the shades of loved ones absorbed by the primal. Or might have, had Vana and her fellows not manifested in their opposition in the form of Hydaelyn. Thank you, both of you, for the detailed review. I feel much more confident now in my understanding of events. It also serves as a review for us. With that freshly in mind, it does make me wonder what the Telophoroi truly mean when they speak of bringing back the final days. Yeah, because the initial conditions are not the same. We've seen what they're doing with those towers of theirs. Is forcing people to summon primals a kind of catalyst? Are they attempting to mirror the conditions caused by unstable creation magics? Or are they simply using the final days as a figure of speech, a convenient metaphor for the scale of destruction they plan to unleash? But this is all just pointless conjecture at this stage. Let us return our attention to the forum, shall we? You should keep an eye on your Stella, an eye out for your Stella, but 'tis time we began studying these research papers. Alright, and I guess your Stella is going to be next. Yep, there she is. I'm the last, am I? Well, my extended search of the Archon stacks produced 1 or 2 possibly useful books, but I wouldn't get your hopes up. If you recall, Eorzea learned of the source's reflections from the Jiran oracles. For its potential to cause panic and confusion, that tome was deemed apocrypha and sealed away in the Great Gubal Library. 'Tis even less likely that knowledge of the unsundered world, not to mention the horrors of the final days, would be left sitting on a shelf for any curious scholar to find. It stands to reason, then, that my colleagues, be they archons or counselors, should perforce be largely ignorant of the subject. That when you confronted Master Fortuno with the knowledge of the Telophoroi and their machinations, he scoffed at the suggestion that they posed a threat. He seemed adamant that the Forum would know if the final days were truly upon us. Which only supports the conclusion that whatever privileged wisdom is guiding the Forum's behavior, it is being kept secret from the rest of the nation. Not that I mean to excuse myself from reading duty. Whether they contain mention of the final days or no, these books could yet hold something of value. You weren't thinking of leaving, were you? There's plenty of work for everyone. Oh boy. I guess we're gonna get into it. You labor for what feels like an age as Ystolla's research assistant. Alright. What I think we'll do is we'll probably go ahead and end the episode here, and we'll see what they came up with when we come back. And see where this is going to lead us. Alright, but for now, we'll stop here. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Go ahead, like, subscribe, and comment, and I will see you next time.